So it's an incredibly competitive market for people that are looking for work.
And what are the basic things job applicants are getting wrong?
Even today, with infinite amount of information on how to write the perfect resume, what type of stuff to include, exclude, people are still kind of choosing high design over simplicity.
Where do you think you learned that mindset of just going for it, starting small, building from there?
All of a sudden, 13 million views and tens of thousands of followers that were pet enthusiasts. And it kind of showed me the power of generative AI and using this new technology to solve real problems for consumers that are in a high pain situation.
Initiating launch sequence.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Aidan Cramer, welcome to Ready for Launch. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks, Ian. How are you?
I'm good. Very excited to complete the Kramer family on this podcast. We had your sister on right at the beginning, and great to have you on the show. Would you do me the honors of introducing your business and sharing what's unique about it?
Yes. So my business is AI Apply, and it is a platform for job seekers that leverages AI, generative AI, to help them find, apply, and get the best possible job.
Great. You mentioned generative AI there. Could we just do a little bit of a explainer of what that is and how that is different to maybe other types of AI for people who aren't super versed in this space?
Yeah, so generative AI is the type of AI that is used in ChatGPT, and it's based on something called LLMs, which are large language models. So it's a type of training and using these artificial intelligence algorithms to produce and generate new contextual information. In this case, text data, which we use for generating resumes and cover letters and completing applications for job seekers.
Perfect. Okay, so maybe you could just expand on the types of services that people would come to AI Apply for and how you can help them.
Sure. So we're entering a world, and I'll give you a bit of context. We're entering a world where there's going to be more job seekers than ever. So it's an incredibly competitive market for people that are looking for work. And we have a suite of tools that help the job seekers find the best matching jobs for them. So we use AI to uncover the skills within their resume and their experience and match them with jobs that are suitable to them. And then we help them tailor their application for each individual job. So every application that they send to an employer, they have a high likelihood of actually getting asked to an interview. And then when they are asked for an interview, we have a suite of tools that helps them prepare and actually conduct themselves during that interview. So they can upload their resume and connect the job they've applied to, and it will generate a customized mock interview for that role so they can prepare themselves and make sure when it comes, they're increasing their chances of getting to the next stage.
Gotcha. And how much of this is everything that your company does managed by AI, or is there some combination of experts plus technology involved?
So the backbone is AI. We kind of send all of our prompts and our information to these large language models, and they kind of output the responses for us to generate application kits and resumes, etc. The bit where the human is important is actually creating the prompts that we send to the LLMs. So the difference between kind of a professional career coach understanding what needs to be put in a resume, what type of jobs would suit someone, and not using a professional career coach to create those prompts is what makes us quite unique. So we do use professionals to make sure that the prompts we're using to the AI are as effective as they can be.
You mentioned in your explanation of AI, ChatGPT. Are you using ChatGPT or some version of it in your business, or do you build your own AI and train that with your own models? How does that all work?
No, so we're essentially using ChatGPT. So we're using an API call to OpenAI. We're using GPT-4 at the moment. But at the moment, it's kind of getting a bit competitive with these large language models. And we are looking at kind of switching between different LLMs. So there's ones released by Google, there's some open source ones, and they all have different trade-offs. Some are more expensive, some are slower, but have better output. And the likelihood is we'll change to a model that gives us, higher limits, so we can put more information in and get more information out from it, and at a lower cost. So there's kind of a hidden competitive landscape with these LLM providers. And then people like us that are building on top of them, they become kind of our back-end infrastructure, but we can swap it out quite easily.
And other than the prompts that you're creating to get those responses, do you have to do any additional training or provide them any extra content that allows it to give you the best results?
So you can kind of import loads of data sets, and you can kind of train it on a specific use case. But for what we're doing, we're not. We are just using the standard models, and using kind of specific data from the resume and the job seeker to get a good output.
And what are the basic things job applicants are getting wrong when they apply to jobs that you're helping them solve?
So even today, with infinite amount of information on how to write the perfect resume, what type of stuff to include, exclude, people are still kind of choosing high design over simplicity, and those kind of things can get blocked by applicant tracking systems and automated tools that pass CVs and don't let people get through. So we're kind of standardizing the resume. So every resume we get uploaded, we pull out all the information and we put it into a standardized format that is kind of best in class and will increase their chance of getting through. And then we're just, in most cases, making them shorter. The biggest problem is a lot of people have loads of information on their resume that's not going to get through to a human or an ATS. So simplifying it, we're pulling out the most important information that's relevant to the job they're applying to, and then we're packaging it all up into kind of the perfect resume for each job.
And what about the find the right job side of things? Could I come to you and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a career change, help me find a job"? Is that the level that you're going to, or is it more like, "Oh, I'm a designer, I specialize in tech, who should I apply to"?
Yeah, so it's more about kind of the scale of the search. So how it works is a job seeker will kind of upload their resume onto our system. We then have connections to all of the biggest job boards, and lots of hidden job sites and career sites across the internet. So we'll pull out information based on your skills and background. We'll kind of identify jobs that are suitable for you. So it may just be design jobs. And then we'll kind of scour all of those job sites to pull in the best matches that are relevant to you and fit your salary requirements. So in terms of the actual searching, it's more about saving time going through different job sites and applying externally, and it's kind of putting it all into one place. We'll then kind of rewrite the cover letter and the resume to make sure it's tailored to that job. And we'll try and find the email address of the HR manager, so our job seekers can kind of apply directly to the company rather than being sent off to loads of different job boards and applying externally, and very often kind of ending up in the CV black hole, and not knowing whether it's even been seen by a human or not.
Yeah, that definitely is one of the most painful aspects of the job hunt. It's just the endless unknown of waiting of did they look at this? Do they care? So what were you doing before you started this? How did that lead you to building this company?
So this is my third company. My first one was in a very similar space. It was kind of an HR tech platform, and it was a website that connected graduates with jobs. So graduates kind of create a profile, upload a video, and then we would have employers that would sign up on the other side, and we would match them in the middle. I started that company about 8 years ago. We raised a bit of money and we grew that company for about 6 years. And it was very difficult. It was a very hard business because we had a marketplace. So we needed to find our supply, which is our job seekers, and demand, which was the hiring managers. And we needed to build both at the same time. So we had a constant battle to try and acquire both sides of the marketplace, and it was just really difficult and very high competitive space. Ended up exiting that company a couple of years ago to a company called Liquid Friday, that are an umbrella company, and they have a few 100,000 blue collar contractors, and they were interested in providing this matchmaking service to their contractors. So transitioned out of that business, worked in kind of product strategy for those guys for a couple of years, and towards the start of last year, I left that and had kind of freedom for the first time in 8 years. So I gave myself a bit of free rein just to explore what was going on in the world. This was kind of ChatGPT was blowing up. There were lots of opportunities that didn't exist before. So just played around with new technologies and decided to build a few things and solve some problems, different sectors. It was around this time that I decided to create a TikTok account. Initially, the idea was to kind of talk about like upcoming releases in AI, to talk about new technology news, with a view to build some distribution for myself so that I'd have a following. And if I wanted to test a new business idea, I could like release it to my following and see if it got traction, and then could kind of double down if it did, and if it didn't, then move away. And I spent about 3 months kind of uploading 80 or so videos that I've spent loads of time on, about new AI news, what's going on in technology, and generated probably a grand total of about 80 followers, which is quite disheartening. Yeah. But then I decided to upload this video of my girlfriend's goldfish. And my girlfriend's goldfish had this problem. It had something called swim bladder disease, and it was stuck on the bottom of her tank. So I promise the story kind of ties up somehow. And I made this goldfish a little life jacket. So I tied a cork to the goldfish and helped it swim. And I uploaded this video, like doing this onto TikTok, and all of a sudden I had 13 million views and tens of thousands of followers that were pet enthusiasts. And I thought it kind of ruined my whole experiment around building distribution via my TikTok. And I kind of complained about this to my Twitter followers. And one guy said, well, look, you wanted distribution, you now have it. Can you build something for this new audience? I thought that was quite clever. So I thought about, okay, is there something I can build for pet enthusiasts that uses generative AI and would help me kind of learn how to build stuff in this space? So decided to build what I call an AI vet. And it was very simple. It was a website that users could sign up. They could input the issues that they're having or the symptoms that their pet is experiencing, the type of animal, the age, the breed, and we would send that prompt to OpenAI and then give the user a diagnosis of what could possibly be wrong with their animal. So I built the domain petvet.ai and launched that to my TikTok audience. And within a week, we had 10,000 users, really strong signs of product market fit, and people actually loved it. It solved a real problem for them. And in retrospect, it's because when a pet owner has an issue with their animal, they have a very high pain threshold. So they care a lot about solving this problem. And, the first step is probably a Google search, but Google searches aren't actually that good at giving you direct information. They're mostly kind of SEO optimized articles from pet food companies. And then the next step is to speak to a vet, and that'll set you back a few £100 just for a quick visit. So actually a tool that kind of gave a very simple diagnosis using AI, and that was tailored to your animal, solved a big problem for them. So it was growing really quickly, found ways to monetize it through product recommendations into it, and also the ability to actually speak to a real vet. So you could upsell and speak to a real vet. So it had a little bit of monetization, very fast growth, really exciting experiment. And I was like, okay, I'll list this on acquire.com, which is a platform where you can buy and sell small businesses. Did that, ended up speaking to a guy called Marshall, who owned a company called Home Life Media, and Home Life Media own loads of websites that get millions of eyeballs from pet owners every month. iHeartDogs.com, iHeartCats.com, and a few others. And he agreed to acquire it, and we had an agreement, so there was a bit of upside for me when they launched it. And so that period was 3 months from kind of initial idea to exit. My last company was 6 years from start to finish. And it kind of showed me like the power of generative AI and using this new technology to solve real problems for consumers that have, are in a high pain situation. And also the kind of magic that it is to consumers. The people that were using it, the pet owners, it was solving a real problem for them. It felt like magic because this thing really understood a lot about their animal, and it was kind of cutting straight to the point. And it grew very quickly. So that kind of was the spark of, okay, how can I use this new technology to solve problems that I had in my last business that we couldn't solve before? And you learn about job seekers, and you learn about how to acquire them, and you learn about the pains they have whilst they're looking for work. And now I knew how this new technology could be used to solve some of those problems. So about 7 months ago, started working on these tools, very quickly found product market fit. And in 7 months, we grew from 0 to 55,000 users, profitable from day one, bootstrapped, haven't spent a penny, and just have this really fast growing business that solves a very high pain for a lot of people in a short space of time. So it's been a really interesting journey.
Yeah, it sounds it. You had such immediate success with this pet vet one. What was the reason you abandoned it so quickly and decided you should move on to the next thing?
So it's a great question because I don't actually have a clear answer. There was a bit of regret as well. So I think because it was so easy to build, and because I didn't really see it as a business, I think I missed the fact that it was, solving a very real problem in a very big market. I didn't know anything about the pet space. I didn't know anything about the vet space either. I didn't feel like I had a competitive advantage, and I didn't see how it could be like a really big unicorn type business. But I did see how it could, be a lead magnet or add value to an existing business like I Heart Dogs and I Heart Cats. So yeah, there were a few reasons. And I also just wanted to, see what the experience was like on acquire.com and see whether, you could access the liquidity of selling these smaller businesses, because that would be quite an interesting way to, to go after building and selling things. And also, it was one of maybe 6 different businesses that were projects that I started in that period of time. So it was one that kind of grew really quickly, but there are a lot of others that didn't. And there are also still a lot of ideas that I wanted to play around with.
You were trying to build 6 at the same time, or you picked one to run with and you were like, oh, I'll try it for a bit and move on?
There was quite a bit of overlap. So yeah, it was very much just, following inspiration, using TikTok as kind of an initial distribution. And I think that was one of the big learnings was historically, if you wanted to test or validate an idea, you would have to build a landing page, drive some traffic to it, launch a product hunt, maybe buy some ads, compare the kind of conversion rates to see if this was something people really cared about. And if you did find that people cared about it, you would kind of go deeper and build more features for them. But in this kind of new age, I found that the MVP is just creating some content that talks about the benefits of this product that doesn't even necessarily need to exist yet. And you can kind of trust the algorithm to push it out if people find it interesting and restrict it if they don't. So if it gets lots of views and you have some content that goes viral or even, gets a lot of engagement, that's kind of good enough validation to actually take the next step of building something and taking it further. So there was a lot of kind of micro experimentation with ideas and concepts just to get a sense of, what was going to be easy to grow, what was going to be easy to sell. Because I kind of found that through business, there's easy ways and there's hard ways. You don't need to work on a very difficult business to grow something quickly and make money. There are a lot of people that seem to have an easy ride. So the goal was to try and find a path of least resistance to find something very scalable and profitable, just to kind of invest all my time and effort into that rather than the same time and effort into something that was going to be a lot harder.
Do you think your first business was the hard way?
It was absolutely the hard way. Yes, yeah, it was very difficult. It's almost kind of, a meme for a lot of entrepreneurs that kind of finish formal education and then still out of work, see this thing as incredibly painful and try and solve it. And that's what we kind of did. We were like, okay, getting a job is really difficult. I don't know what I want to do. These job boards are just kind of newspaper classified ads put online. Why don't we try and build a better solution? And there's a massive graveyard of companies that have tried and failed to build a sustainable business in that space. And I think, we became one of them.
You don't have to share numbers if you don't want to, but you exited one business after 6 years. You exited another after 3 months. Was there a significant difference in the financial reward you got out of those?
So the financial reward was kind of limited on both. The first one, the business wasn't in a great shape when we exited. We were hit pretty hard with the pandemic. People stopped hiring. We had to pivot the business to be this kind of marketplace that was down to matching. There was a bit of cash, but the upside was really in equity, which is in a private company, which is still kind of unvalued. So we call it a soft landing in my world. The second one was a lot more exciting, but again, the upside was mostly in kind of this equity agreement ongoing because it was, something very easy to build and very quick to launch. So yeah, they were still considered small deals and still working on the big one.
Do you think this third one will be it?
I'm pretty confident.
Sounds like you didn't have a traditional job at all after university. Is that right?
Yeah. So I studied as kind of an ad creative, entered that world for a short period of time and kind of felt that it wasn't for me. Didn't feel that it was very impactful, especially for a junior creative. It's very difficult. And yeah, I, would spend 6 months working all of my creative energy on, a campaign for Converse to launch a new product line of boots. And I just felt that wasn't, I naively felt that wasn't like the best use of my time as maybe like an entitled millennial. But I wanted to do something that was still creative, but would be more, as like at least I perceived it, more impactful. And very early on in kind of the first business of helping people find work in a period where they, are lost and don't know what they want to do, I found that very meaningful. And, just a few good stories about people discovering the things they care about was enough to kind of push that forward and make it worthwhile.
Do you remember how you felt equipped with the skills to go and help people in their job search as someone who probably hadn't done very much job searching yourself at that point?
Yeah. I didn't have the skills, just kind of a naive sense of, we can do this. And again, we started off with, the most basic MVP possible. we had this idea of, creating video profiles of candidates and this kind of Tinder for jobs before the whole concept even existed. And the first stage was we literally went to from our friends that were job seeking. We created these digital profiles for them. We recorded a video on our phone, and then we went in person to companies that they wanted to apply to, and we showed them these profiles. And we actually, we got a friend a job. We got paid a recruiting fee off the back of this process. We were like, okay, we're on something here. And then we kind of took that validation to some angel investors and said, look, we know this can make money as a manual thing. We think we can automate it, and we want to build a tool to do so. So even that was a very iterative process to get from 0 to 1.
Where do you think you learnt that mindset of just going for it, starting small, building from there?
So I do think like the art world as a creative is how to create me with some like really interesting things, and I think most of them were just around like the fact that no idea is stupid or crazy, and the ability to kind of talk about ideas and theories about how things can work very easily and openly. So I thought that was really valuable. But the kind of idea around just starting small and going from there, I think it's just because we didn't have a choice. We didn't have any resources. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any experience. We couldn't go to investors credibly and say, we're going to build this thing, it's going to work. We needed to show them the things that, gave proof points to the fact that we can figure things out and build from zero.
Was there anything in your upbringing that nurtured you as an entrepreneur, do you think? Like your parents, your grandparents, your family, friends?
Yeah, so my dad was always a very hard worker, and was never afraid to kind of to graft and do whatever it takes. When we were growing up, he was selling plastic bins in the plastic Disney bins in the local market when the property recession hit when we were just kids. And then he worked very hard, and he showed us like how to go from relatively nothing to something important. My mom as well, just kind of with a communist background, kind of showed that anything is possible and the power of hard work. And I'm sure there's other things that I'm not aware of that kind of informed that.
Yeah, interesting. You launched your pet business off the back of a very successful TikTok, and you're saying that taught you the value, or you were trying to test out this theory that if you build a following, you could build a business from it. But it sounds like when you then switched back to AI Apply, you didn't have a following at that point. Is that right? So then how did you pick a strategy for where to go from that point?
So the first version of AI Apply, the very first version, I did a similar thing. I created a video demo of a product that I wished existed, and it didn't. So it just was a series of kind of Figma designs of a tool that was a browser extension that would automatically complete job applications for you based on your background. And recorded those Figma designs kind of in a prototype, posted it on my Twitter account, and it got a load of retweets, a load of people interested, and I said, we're launching this soon. Would you like early access? And I could tell that it was something that people cared about, that it was something they wanted to use. They cared enough to try it. So that kind of was enough early validation to say this is something worth building. And then, so I have a co-founder in this business, a guy called Peter. Peter and I built the first version. We launched it. It was a browser extension, and we really struggled to get much traction. We didn't really anticipate how difficult it is to drive users to a browser extension and to monetize them. So we kind of pivoted. We turned it into a web application, and we had a very simple version 1.0. And then we started pushing out more content. So we started pushing content on my TikTok account about how the product actually works, and also some features that we knew we could build and we wanted to build in future. One of those was a real-time interview support, interview buddy. So the whole idea was that you would be able to upload your resume, have the job arc, and this AI would give you feedback in real time during an interview so that you could answer questions more appropriately. And decided to film kind of a candid type video, again, of my girlfriend using this tool. And the first version was just, I'd created the mock-ups in Figma, maybe even PowerPoint, of something that would kind of read answers. I got it to put it against the camera screen. We pretended she was in a video. I pretended to kind of catch her from behind the door and record it. And again, launched that on TikTok, and that got 10 million views. And it had the company branding on. It was directing all traffic back to our webpage. We had a holding page for that particular feature. But all of the traffic that was visiting our homepage was still converting into paying users for our core product, which was their application kits and the resume builder. So while like PetVet was kind of like reverse engineering off the back of the traction and trying to get those people to then visit the tool, this version was all about kind of driving traffic directly from this content to our website to kind of use this tool. So the conversions were a lot higher, and we had, they changed the kind of the course of the business overnight, just again off the back of this content, and it obviously helped inform like what's next in our product roadmap, because this is something that people really cared about.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier with both these AI businesses, you found product market fit really fast. What are you using to measure that? Like, how do you know it's product market fit? Because that's, I think, something a lot of founders struggle with, is whether they've hit it. Like, how do they know when they've hit it?
So I've always thought this was an impossible question, until someone said that like the whole concept of product market fit is just a scam, and it's another word for profitability. And ever since I heard that, it kind of made perfect sense to me, because if you have a product that is, profitable from your return on ad spend, from your like acquisition cost to lifetime value, to all of your growth channels, if they're returning more value than you're putting into them, then you by default have product market fit, because you can grow as quickly as you can spend, and you have more people coming to you than you can deal with, and all of those things that people rely on as kind of heuristics for product market fit come true, because you're growing very quickly. So that's kind of the biggest sign to me that you have it. And I think everything else is kind of just wishful thinking. Because I think if you have, all this massive growth, but you're actually not converting users into paying users, you're not profitable, you're losing money, then I don't know if you can truly say that you have product market fit. So that's kind of the core in my mind. And then there's loads of other things that kind of feed into that. I've always used Net Promoter Score as like a really helpful indicator. How likely are people to refer your product to friends? Are they actually referring people? Is your organic growth looking good? But it is funny. I do think it's one of those things that when you have it, because you just can't keep up with what to do. And actually, another interesting thing. So in my last business, we needed feedback to inform kind of what features to build, and we were desperate to speak to our users, and we did things that weren't unheard of. We used to offer people an Amazon voucher to jump on a call with us to help us like inform our product strategy. So we're essentially bribing our users to tell us what to build. And with this, or when you have something that feels like it has product market fit, people are literally shouting at you all of the time, telling you what to build. And you don't even need to, or there are times where we're not even recording, the feedback that we're getting in through support or forums, because we hear it so often, we intuitively know it's like, okay, that's next, because if we don't build it, like all our users are going to churn and they're going to shout at us even more. So I think it all ties in. If your growth channels are working, if you can reinvest in profitable growth channels, if you have a lot of users that are telling you what they want and what's working, what's not working, everything else just gets supercharged.
How are these users telling you all of this? Is this through your TikTok? Is there some other channel that you use for feedback?
It's mostly via email. We had live chat, but it just got too crazy. So it's all just kind of to our support email at the moment.
You obviously had to make a bit of a hard pivot from your Chrome extension. Have there been any other major course corrections you've had to make, through problems or things you built that haven't been received well?
So kind of constantly. So for this particular tool, we've kind of gone with an approach where we're constantly releasing new tools that we think are going to help job seekers and convert them into staying users when they're not. So we have kind of like a headshot generator. We have different tools of the mock interview support. We have interview buddy. And we have about 5 or 6. And along the way, we've had to kill maybe 4 or 5 different tools. So we'll launch them and they won't convert, or they won't get traction, or, there'll just be more issues than there were. So we've kind of gone with this approach of launching lots of different things, seeing how they're used, and killing things that aren't working and doubling down on ones that are. And I think, we could probably do even more about just being more ruthless with what our core offering is and making sure it's bulletproof before kind of building out additional things.
Yeah, what is your philosophy on deciding to kill it rather than saying, well, the more features we have, the better our product?
Yeah, it's actually something I struggle with because I find it very difficult, like the kind of the sunk costs associated with having the time and effort into something. But we are ultimately just metrics driven, right? So anything is an experiment. Every kind of product we put out, we're kind of A/B testing it against an existing product or something that could pull revenue from, whether it's accounts positioning is against something that exists already, or whether it's completely new. So the decisions are quite easy, and we use some tools that work out whether something has statistical significance or whether it's just that biases are kind of coming into play. So yeah, I find it difficult, but it helps when there's actual data that says, that great idea that I had has completely flopped. It's time to kill it and focus on what we're good at.
How often do you think you have great ideas that flop versus great ideas that don't flop, or maybe bad ideas that end up being incredible?
95.5. So 95% of the ideas that I think are great flop. 5% probably come through and work out really well.
Are you able to refine that over time? Do you think you're getting better at figuring out what will work, or is it just such a difficult process?
It's a very difficult process. I think maybe getting better at figuring out when stuff isn't working, rather than just, historically I've kind of been very good at thinking that, success is just one feature away or just around the corner. So I think kind of over time, probably you develop a sense of when something is just not right. That doesn't feel right, that doesn't think it's, getting the right impact from users. And actually, you may be able to optimize it and get 20%, 50% better. But that same amount of time and resource could be spent making something else, 10x better. So I think that's probably the learning over time.
You mentioned before that a lot of your roadmap is based on what you're hearing from customers. Do those ideas still end up being things that flop, and basically the customers don't know what they want, or something else?
So very rarely. So the things that kind of we keep hearing from our users, where we actually put time into building those, they're the ones that we have high confidence on and generally are well received from our users. So yeah, I think actually they probably have a much better success rate than the ideas we cook up in time internally. Yeah, we probably give them like equal weighting incorrectly, and it's probably something we can work on.
Interesting. You mentioned a moment ago thinking you're only one feature away from success. So what is success in your mind at the moment? What is that? What does that look like?
So it's a good question. It's all about growth at the moment. So we've grown from 0 to 25K in monthly revenue in the last 6 months. And that has been done kind of, as I said, profitably without spending kind of a penny of our own money. So just from our users. So we have kind of ambitious growth targets. So we want to go from 25 to 250K a month in the next 18 months. So everything is around kind of just keeping up our growth rate, keeping it consistent. All experiments are around growth. And yeah, just seeing if we can get there as quickly as we hope.
How do you come up with that metric of 250, 10xing your monthly growth in 18 months?
So it's mostly because we know it can be done, because we have advisors, or I have an advisor that has done exactly the same thing for a similar business in a similar sector in a similar period of time. And that's the kind of thing that gives real confidence that that level of growth and to that stage is possible with this type of a business. Because otherwise, I've had kind of wild and ambitious growth targets of businesses before, and they often, they don't get hit, and everyone's depressed, and it's always something else's fault, an external factor. But with this, I'm very confident that we can achieve it, and yeah, it's based on actually having seen it done before, and kind of understanding what the playbook is to get there.
What does that playbook look like for you?
So product is pretty solid, but it does what it says on the tin. We have very good conversion rates of like users coming in the top of the funnel to actually converting and paying us. To convert around 2% of page views into paying users. And we're currently kind of running like 4 different channels. It's like paid search and social. SEO is going to be a big opportunity, but it's kind of building up. And influencer is kind of huge for us. And influencer is broken down between kind of paying influencers to post content on their own channels, which gives us kind of a quick uplift, and having influencers on retainer create content for us over time. So whether it's it will be multiple influencers on retainer creating content that we're kind of giving them to put out. So they're the kind of 3/4 channels. And they in themselves, kind of the right investment and the right execution will get us there, just doing what we're doing. On top of that, kind of the next levers of growth are, okay, we have a B2C business consumer proposition. So we sell to consumers. There's a lot of tools we can sell into businesses. So kind of analyzing job seekers, analyzing resumes, standardizing them. So, when we want to pull more levers for growth, we can start launching those tools, and it's a very different type of sales process, but we can start scaling it up quite efficiently, assuming, conversions is still quite good. And yeah, and there's a lot of other things we can do as well around partnership and product-led growth.
Yeah. Content has come up a lot in this conversation. It started with you having a terrible time until your fish, and it sounds like now you mostly work with influencers. Are you still doing your own content as well? And how do you decide what content looks like for your business? If I'm going to go and start producing content for my new business, what is your process for thinking about what am I going to put out into the world?
Yeah, so I'm not actually doing very much at the moment, just because it takes a lot of time, both creatively and like through the execution, to be done right. And I've been distracted. I've not been able to do it. And actually, if I want to scale it up as a channel, like a reliable growth channel for my business, then I need to find ways to do it that I don't become the bottleneck, because I invariably do become the bottleneck. So yeah, what is the process? I think it starts off by just understanding, who is our persona? What do they do? What do they care about? What are their pains? What are the issues? Very easy for job seekers, because we understand what they look like quite a lot. There's already a lot of content out there for them. There's something called Career Talk, which is a hashtag for job seekers. And actually, it's just a process of looking at what kind of content resonates, what content has a lot of views, what's gone viral, and that invariably tells you, what people care about. I think TikTok is particularly good for this because you can look at Career Talk and look at the 10 most viral videos from that hashtag, and it will show you the 10 most important topics that people care about, that are looking for a job, much more so than the career hashtag on Instagram, because the biggest views will probably be from accounts that have the biggest followers, whereas TikTok prioritizes content and Instagram prioritizes follower count. So you can very quickly build a content library on pain points, solutions, and things to address for a particular demographic. There's also something called TikTok Creative Suite, something like that. Dig out. That kind of lets you search for trending topics and understand what people are searching for and care about again. So there's that, and then you can look at competitors. What kind of content is going well for them? What do their users care about? Because there's definitely going to be a bit of crossover with that.
If you say you've picked the top 10 topics, and you create a bunch of videos, is the sense that if you produce a similar piece of content, it will do similarly as well? Or do you have to find a new, unique angle on it that's really tailored to your brand for it to stand out as well as that original top, 1 or 10 piece?
Well, when we put out the content of the interview, buddy, the video uploaded, that had 10 million views, within a week or so, there was some exact copies from competitors, some without even a similar business, or definitely not the same proposition. But they just put it out because they knew that we could get views and it would drive traffic to their accounts and then their homepages. And they were getting equally millions of views. So there is kind of a strange art game going on these channels where, because the audience is just so massive, you can produce very similar content and get similar results, and still not cross over with the people that had seen it the first time around. Now, the caveat is things change, or from what I've seen, things change very, very quickly in this world. The algorithm gets updated, the competitors' landscape changes, so it's very hard to kind of keep up with. So our strategy at the moment is, we're going to be hiring a lot of influencers on retainer that will be posting content on accounts that are owned by us, but not our core account. So we'll be trying lots of different strategies across lots of different individual TikTok accounts, but they'll all be AI apply related. So it'll be AI apply co, apply AI cone, etc. So we can run lots of different experiments from the core brand, and we can kind of double down on what's working. We can use that creative across the different accounts, and we can try and grow from there.
How does that work long term? Is the plan that once you figure out what's working, you slowly shut down these offshoot accounts and merge into one, or do they all just live on forever and it doesn't really matter because no one's checking which the real you is or anything?
No, I expect us to keep doubling down and have hundreds of accounts. I think that's what the kind of the midterm strategy looks like. Just at the moment, there's no reason not to keep scaling it up in that fashion. And so one thing that TikTok likes is reliable content styles. So kind of if an audience on one account likes a particular content style, then it will kind of benefit from having that audience. But if you want to try lots of different content styles, then it doesn't make sense to do it on one account. where you can have kind of one account dedicated to street interviews, one account dedicated to, straight to camera interview advice, one account dedicated to how to tailor your resume. So you can have all of these strategies running in parallel, and you get a much better return than if you're running it all from the same account.
Gotcha. Super interesting. You've obviously handed off this content creation piece, and that one of the important things as you grow as a company is delegating the bits that you aren't as expert at. But what roles are you still playing in this company? And what about your founder? Like, how did you choose who the right person was to support your skill set?
So we're a team of two at the moment. So we're kind of doing everything. It's a good question, because we really are doing everything. I guess, like, high level, I'm in charge of growth and making sure people come to our website. He's in charge of making sure the product delivers the value that's being offered. So it's a pretty good partnership in that sense, that life is just growth and product and delivery. My co-founder is also, like, exceptionally talented. Like, the best engineer I probably worked with, and I think it's because he comes from kind of an indie hacking background. And for this, like, indie hacking is like individual, independent makers and developers that just build products normally by themselves, that focus on getting revenue from customers and solving problems. And yeah, like, there's a lot of indie makers and indie hackers that are paying themselves decent salaries from the SaaS tools that they've built and developed. And I think developers that come from that background have, like, a really good sense on how to build stuff that people actually care about, because they've wasted their own time if they build stuff that people aren't going to pay for. So yeah, he's got a great design sense, which I think is quite unique, and he's great at executing and building. And it kind of frees me up to just focus on kind of top of funnel growth and kind of longer term strategy.
Is that the role you took in your first business?
So
or have you shifted?
I was a lot more product focused. So I was like, I guess, pseudo product manager and CEO, and I spent a lot of my time kind of very deep into product and design and UI, and kind of really understanding, like, the UX of the process. And I enjoyed it, and I do love product, and I think it helps with this business as well. But again, I don't kind of bottleneck, because we both have, like, a very good sense of what should be built and how to build it, so we can move a lot quicker. But that said, we do also kind of rely and work with agencies for particular tasks, kind of SEO for paid search and social, and that's a massive unlock as well. Finding the right partners and that stuff, because it means we can move a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm. What made you decide to bring on a partner founder for this one? Whereas it sounds like you built the pet one yourself and launched that on your own.
Yeah, so this is it just requires a lot more technical expertise, a lot more than kind of I'm capable of. It's not just a wrapper using kind of OpenAI, which the first one was. It was just kind of simple input boxes. This is kind of a lot more complex, and I just don't have the ability. And we first started working together because Pete had already built a similar browser extension tool. So we built kind of a GPT browser extension. We're actually connected on Twitter, just discussing it, and decided to kind of try and turn it into this job seeker tool, and we kind of developed our relationship from there.
Were you strangers until you found them on Twitter?
Yeah, pretty much.
How did you do, if any, due diligence on whether you would work well together and should build a company? Because that's quite a big investment.
Yeah, it's a great question. Because the answer is we didn't. So in the preceding year, when I was kind of working on a few different ventures, I had worked with several different engineers, different products, and different co-founders working on different things. So I had quite a good sense on what type of people are good to work with, and we had hit, or Peter and I hit 10K in MRR before we even had like an email address set up, let alone like a shareholders agreement or a founders agreement. We just started working very, very quickly, and built trust by just doing what we'd say. There was a sense that there was kind of this shared leverage that we had, and that meant we didn't need to have kind of agreements in place early on. For example, we used my Stripe account, but it was his GitHub account, so we both kind of could take and add as much as each other to the business. And ultimately, if one of us decided to leave in the first, even now, then the business doesn't really make sense anyway, because we both had so much value to it. So we were able to move forward very quickly, based on trust and, just a shared kind of alignment of what we wanted to do with this business.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also been just generally enjoying it. It's been really fun.
Yeah. Are you located in a similar area? Are you building this business remotely? How does that
So
work?
it's fully remote. I'm in London. He's in Brighton. So it works.
Have you had to make any sacrifices to pursue entrepreneurship and this particular business?
Yes, I'm sure. I see kind of all of my friends kind of climbing the ladder, sustainably, and going through a path of life that can sometimes be very appealing. We weren't paying ourselves for the first 6 months of this business, so we were kind of all in, and and it's just two of us. It can be quite lonely at times. Just trying to build something that works. You kind of default in a world of uncertainty. You don't know if it's going to work out. But we found ways to kind of make it enjoyable. We've focused on the customer first, focused on something that's profitable, focused on something that can grow very quickly. And all of these things make it very exciting to work on. And if it's exciting to work on, then nothing else really matters.
Mm. Is that the main driver that keeps you in it when there you are, seeing everyone else grow their careers, their bank balances, etc.? Or are there other parts about entrepreneurship that you love as well?
I think it's one of those things that you can't really go back from. Once you've kind of seen behind the curtain, and kind of what's possible. I think especially when you see successful entrepreneurs that have kind of achieved amazing things and have like a huge amount of impact. And if you have the kind of I can do that gene, but I think a lot of entrepreneurs have, then it's very hard to kind of ignore. And it's just, it can be fun. And it's incredibly rewarding. And the upside can make it go worthwhile as well.
But there's also, we only see the best bits of entrepreneurship typically, right? We hear the success stories, but there's a lot of other people who didn't gain that status.
Yes, yeah, that is true. And I think, like, on balance, it's not a very smart thing to do. The odds are stacked massively against you. There's a massive graveyard of companies, and you don't hear about the ones that it didn't work out. And even the ones that seem to have worked out, companies that have raised hundreds of millions, that end up exiting for hundreds of millions, and the founders end up with nothing because of how the cap table is stacked. So there's a lot of ways it can go wrong. But it is just, the freedom of being able to build what you want, to make these decisions, to potentially have control of future freedom, and the upside that potentially could be there is quite fun.
Mm-hmm. How do you plan for the future of your business? Like, how far ahead do you look, and what does that process look like?
So I think I like to look like very far ahead, with like 10 years. What does the world look like? And actually spend some time periodically just trying to imagine what the world looks like in that kind of a time frame, and then kind of come back to just what is the best decision now. The truth is, with the market's changing so quickly for this type of stuff, we really don't know what it's going to look like in the next 6 months. So once you kind of spend a bit of time like living in the future, it's then just about, okay, how can we, what are the levers we can pull today to grow as quickly as we can, to add value to our users, to build something that is a net positive to the world, and does it eventually fall into that vision we have in the future? If you can tick all of those things, and I think you're in a good position. But it's probably quite a unique strategy at the moment, because we just don't know what things are going to look like in the near term, and things are just moving so quickly in the world of AI.
What is a piece of advice you'd give to someone who's thinking about starting their own business but doesn't really know how to take the first step?
So I would focus on. So I think the learning of like second time founder, and again, it's a very well stated thing. It's just distribution comes first. It's not about like what the product does, it's about how your product kind of gets in front of users. So I'd really focus on just trying to nail that first. And one of the benefits of this kind of content first approach is that you're validating like your customer discovery and distribution channel, whilst you're validating like your product idea. So I would just start, what is like, can you create a vision for, a demo of what your product can possibly do? Can you create that on, Figma or on PowerPoint, or in any way possible, just demonstrating like the idea that you're trying to build? And then can you distribute that somehow through any channels that you have access to? And then once you've done that, like, do people care? I think the worst thing you can do is ask people whether they think an idea is good or bad. It's 10 times better to just show them what you're thinking, and see how people react, and see, are they engaging in the way that you think? But also, you kind of need experience of like what's good and bad. So if it's kind of first idea and the first thing you put out, you won't really know if the reaction you're getting is good or bad. But if you've kind of tried a few different ideas or propositions, and one gets 10 times the amount of engagement as another, maybe that actually gives you some information. So you can't make decisions based on dots, but you can based on lines. Just push stuff out there.
Perfect. We're about at time. So, Aidan, where can people go to find out more about you and your company?
Follow me on TikTok or Twitter, both at Aidan Cramer.
Not one of the hundreds of other TikTok accounts you have.
No, just that one.
Perfect. All right, we'll add that to the show notes. Aidan, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on the show. And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in.
Cool. Thank you so much, Ian. It's been great to talk about this.